apparently I was doing a deal. I was going to raise money for a junior exploration company based in WA, and we're going to look for gold. And I was like, got back from lunch, and I'm like, what's this guy on? I don't even know what he's talking about. I don't know what this company is.
Yeah.
And I then called my head of corporate, so the investment banking team, and said, look, are we doing this deal? And they're like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I rang the CEO. He then says, Tolga, you're going to Perth tomorrow. I was like, what? So I don't know what it's like in traffic in Sydney, but when it's raining, getting to the airport is a nightmare, right? So it's raining cats and dogs, and traffic is hell, and I missed my flight. I'm in the taxi, got there, realised I was not going to make it, just got back in the taxi and I was driving down. I rang him up, rang Alan and said, Alan, I'm just going to go back to the office. And he's like, with this accent, this real thick accent scaring me, and I was like 30 years old, got out of the taxi, walked back up the ramp in the rain, went back, bought another ticket, got on a plane and went to Perth. And that company, I did do the raising, I did do the IPO, and it was the number one performing IPO in 2009-10.
What was it?
It's called Doré Minerals.
Okay.
Listed at 20 cents, went to $1.60. I think we raised them $35 million in the process. So I went from not going to do it, not going to get on the plane, not knowing if this transaction was happening, to then being behind the number one IPO in that year.
So a girl from Tasmania bought our tea, and she had around 1,000 followers at the time. This was back in 2012, and that was what constituted an influencer at the time. Not that I thought that. So she bought the product, she posted to Instagram, and we had our biggest day of sales ever. So we knew what worked because we just had our biggest day of sales from this girl in Tasmania. And so every time I saw a girl that fit her profile, I would screenshot them. Yeah, exactly. I'd go back. There wasn't even direct messages on Insta at the time. I had to just comment on their photo being like, hi, lovely, do you have an email address that I could, flick through a little, not even proposal to. I'd just be like, hi, would you be okay if I sent you some tea if you did a review of the tea? And I would always ask for honest reviews.
And they would?
Yeah. And 95% of the time, the girls were just super flattered that we wanted to send them free product. They were like, yes, okay, sure.
Nice.
And that is very much not how it necessarily works anymore.
My instructions from my business partner, Thomas, was to go to this conference, and whatever you do, Andrew, do not talk to anyone from Australia, because we didn't want the big websites, realestate.com and Domain, to realise how big the share accommodation market had grown. So Thomas said, go to the conference, don't talk to any Australians, and whatever you do, don't talk to anyone from realestate.com.au or Domain. Anyway, last day of the conference, heading to bed, big final dinner, and I was walking through the lobby about to go to bed, and there's a few people in the bar, and this Canadian girl sort of waved at me and said, Andrew, come over here. This guy's trying to pick my brains. He's a competitor, and I'd met this girl. So I came across, and this guy sort of turned around and said, g'day.
And you're like, thinking, don't mention anything. Don't say a word.
I've kind of gone 3 days without talking to an Australian. On the last night, this guy's an Australian. And I said, oh, hi, where are you from? realestate.com.au.
No.
And I'm like, oh.
Say nothing,
I
say
said,
nothing.
what do you do? He's like, I'm head of strategy. And I'm like, this is like a nightmare. Like, what do I do? I should have, feigned a heart attack or something.
No dramatic.
So we had this conversation. He then pulled out tequilas, actually, and I said I'm from Casa Student.
Oh, so you lied at the beginning?
Well, I was from Casa Student. I was from both.
Yeah.
And so I said I'm from Casa Student. He said, no, you're not. You're from Flatmates. And I was like, oh.
They knew.
So and then he brought out tequilas, and and we just sat there, and he was a very funny guy. He was fantastic at his job at learning about his competitors. And at a certain point,
absolutely,
at a certain point in the night, it was like, oh my God, I've told him everything, And he said at the end, he said, actually, we should have coffee next week. And I said, yeah, cool, great, we'll have coffee next week. And I rang a friend of mine who was an investment banker, university friend who became a very senior investment banker. And I said, I'm back in Australia. I've got a meeting next week with realestate.com's head of strategy for coffee. What does that mean? And he said, well, what does that mean? It's obvious. They want to buy you. I'm like, do they? What do I do now? And he said, well, you need a mid-tier investment bank. So he helped me find an investment bank, and we went and had coffee. And
then that was so it was
9 months later, we sold the business. It was long.
And so from the day we started it to the day you sold it, how long does it take to build it to 32 million?
So we from the day I bought it to selling it was probably 7 years.
7 years.
7 years, yeah.
7 years and 32 million. Nice.